listen to my dad. He's a beast. And if you don't want to listen to him, okay, you don't want to get successful. If you ain't trying to dominate, man, then go listen to something else.
Welcome, athletes, top performers, and all those looking to gain that killer instinct, that edge you need to dominate in any environment. This is the Sports Motivation Podcast, and I'm your host, Niyi Sobo. I played ball and succeeded at the highest levels, and I'm now committed to showing you how you can accomplish the ambitious goals and visions that you have. This podcast is designed to teach you high-level strategy, not just fluff and hype. This will cut to the core if you let it, and by taking action on the practical and next-level advice I share, you will see results. Expect that. Expect to be more confident. Expect to be more focused. Expect to be more decisive. And expect to be more fearless. Expect to become the leader your vision needs you to become. So listen up, take notes. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Sports Motivation Podcast. It's me, Niyi Sobo. Hope the year is going great so far. We're about second quarter. I set yearly goals. I have my vision, right? I have yearly goals, and then I break my goals up into quarters. So I tend to think in terms of quarters. So we're in the middle of the second quarter right now, and I hope yours is going well. I want you to really quick think about what you said you wanted to do at the beginning of this year. If you're someone who's been listening for a while, you may have listened to my New Year's resolution, quote unquote, podcast, where I break down my process that I go through at the beginning of each year. And so I'm asking you right now just to really quickly ask yourself, when's the last time you've reviewed your goals from the year? And how are you doing on them? Some of you maybe review them frequently. Chances are you're farther along than most people. Some of you listening may not have reviewed them at all and might be wondering why you feel frustration, overwhelm, anxiety, etc., while the rest of us are getting it. So I just wanted to remind you really quick of your goals, to go look at your goals and realize that you're not going to accomplish anything if you don't focus on what it is that you want. So with that being said, I just felt the need to say that. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about how to develop and build more trust in yourself. For you and I, that means the confidence in ourselves in order to move forward and do what it is that we need to do, become the boss on our team, become the top dog, accomplish the goals that we want. And what happens is what we find is that a lot of times we don't feel that confident. We don't feel like we trust ourselves, meaning we don't feel like we can get it done. We're afraid of making the mistake. And that leads to tentative play. That leads to overthinking. That leads to procrastination. Do you ever procrastinate? Chances are you lack a fundamental trust in yourself in order to get it done, to figure it out. Maybe you have the perfectionist mentality. So I'm going to be dealing with that today. And this is a very important topic. This is actually, I created this episode. I'm creating this episode as a result of a very specific request. Someone asked me, I want you to talk about how to have more trust in yourself. So listen up. I would say the problem of not having enough trust in yourself is a significant problem. And I believe the best way is to start off asking why. Why is it that I don't have trust in myself? Now, before you go saying we just need to focus on solutions. I agree. Solutions are critical. However, you must understand the root of the problem. A lot of our frustration comes because we don't take the time to figure out why we have certain problems, and we keep repeating them over and over because we don't figure out why. A lot of you know that I read a ton, and I suggest you start to read a ton. One of the main reasons is that so that I can understand the whys to things. I can understand why is it so important that we eat healthy? Why do we not eat unhealthy? Why are we so drawn towards, salty, sugary, fat foods? By the way, there's a great book called Salt, Sugar, Fat. You read that book, you'll understand why. And guess what? Once you understand why, you'll start to take better actions. You'll have a better strategy and approach because you understand why. Did you know it was wired in our DNA to like salt, sugar, fat? sugar was very rare. So whenever we got our hands on it, we ate it all up. So no wonder why we go to the grocery store and we see sugar all the time and we want to eat it up. It's wired as part of our DNA. So we don't have to judge ourselves for that, but understanding why says, okay, maybe I shouldn't keep this food around. Maybe I shouldn't try to overcome this by willpower. Maybe I shouldn't try to fight 10,000-year-old, genes and DNA and tendencies. Does that make sense? So understand why. So why don't people trust themselves? Let's think about that, all right? Let's break this down together. I believe, number one, is because when people were little, when we were younger, this is when beliefs are wired, by the way. I think it's the age of 8. Psychologists have said by the age of 8, a lot of our beliefs have become hardwired. That doesn't mean they can never change, but they become pretty ingrained in us. And when we were little, people overmanaged us. I take my kids to the bus stop, and I always see this mom and her kid. And every time I see her at the bus stop with her kid's playing around, a boy, running around. My son's running around. Everyone's running around at the bus stop, doing all kinds of crazy things, jumping on trees, racing each other around the corner. And she's always telling this kid what to do. Stop doing that. Don't touch that. Don't do that. Don't do that. What's that kid going to start to believe after a while? When their parent shows that they don't trust this kid's decision making. First, it probably tells them that to make a mistake or to do something quote unquote wrong is bad, right? And next, he probably starts to believe that maybe he can't be trusted. Maybe he needs mom and dad to think for him. And what usually happens when you get older? What type of athlete does that type of kid become? Does he become fearless? Do you think he just shuts it off when he gets on the field? Or is he still affected by his parents' need to always overmanage them? So that, I believe, is one reason. I also believe that people have a warped idea of failure. People don't trust themselves because they don't want to fail, quote unquote. And their belief of failure is that if you try something and it doesn't work out, then you failed. And again, we usually get those beliefs and ideas from those who raise us, society, etc., right? We also think that mistakes are bad. When we make a mistake, what do our parents do? When we spill water on the floor, what do our parents do? They get upset. I know I've gotten upset when my kids have done that. And then if you think about it, you say, why would I get upset? They just spilled something. Is that a bad thing? It doesn't have to be. It could be a learning opportunity. But we're trained that mistakes are bad. I also believe it's just because our brains are wired that way to keep us safe. And I don't just believe that. That's scientific evidence that proves that. If you read Poor Charlie's Almanac by Charlie Munger, he breaks down the 25 cognitive biases. The number one cognitive bias that he broke down was the pleasure-pain bias. We are drawn away from pain and we move towards pleasure. We do not like pain, and change is naturally painful. Risk is painful. So when we don't trust ourselves, our brain is trying to tell us, hey, we don't want to feel that potential pain. We're wired that way. I also believe a big reason why people don't trust themselves is because of this lie that I feel like the media portrays about how people became successful. It's almost as if we imagine it happened overnight. We have a warped idea about what success looks like. And we don't realize those people who are quote unquote successful, who have the results that we want, they made a lot of mistakes. They had to build trust in themselves, and they had to do it through experience. And then I also believe that a big reason why we don't trust ourselves is because we hang around other people who are the same exact way, who don't trust themselves. And of course, our environment helps to shape us, influence us much more than I believe we give credit for. Much more. If you don't believe me, read the book, great book by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. He has a conversation with the devil, and the devil's breaking down exactly how he gets people into his trap, gets people to consistently fail over and over again. He talks about the power of environment. One of my favorite books. You should definitely check it out. So now that we've broken down why, and we've had a mini therapist session, we don't just want to understand why so we can dwell on that. We want to now shift from our understanding now that we've come from a place of understanding, we understand why we don't have trust in ourselves. We don't have to beat ourselves up about it. We can understand. Now the question is, how do we overcome it? All right. And I'm going to give you sort of my philosophy on how I would develop more trust in myself, how I have developed more trust in myself, and how I do develop more trust in myself. Because just like you, I have doubts, I have anxieties, I have fears, I have worries. I was telling you guys earlier, I have a bad habit of biting my nails, honestly. And it's weird. It comes in waves. I feel like sometimes I'm really good. I'll look at my nails and be like, man, my nails is doing pretty good. And then sometimes I'll realize I've been biting on my nails a lot. And I feel like I bite on my nails when I'm really in a position where I'm uncomfortable, where, I have a lot of things going on, when I've just set some new goals and I'm not really sure how to accomplish them. I have days when I don't feel like I trust myself that much to get something done. And that shows up in the form of anxiety, doubt, indecision, procrastinate. I have a tendency to procrastinate on things. That's why I have to have systems set up in order to combat that. And so what I want to show you now is some very practical ways to approach this, practical ways that I've approached it that I believe will help you to start to develop more trust in yourself. All right. So you ready? I really believe you should write these down. These are really, really critical, and they're going to change the game for you if you apply them. All right. Number one, it's funny. You guys will probably say, you always say this, and you're right. I do. Define your vision. You're like, what does that have to do with trust? It has everything to do with trust. If you told me to come meet you at your house, right? You said, hey, yo, Niyi, come over, man. And I'm like, all right, where you live? I don't know. Figure it out. How much trust am I going to have in myself to get there? We must have the end game in mind. Trust in ourselves to do what, right? Because if you don't know what you're trying to do, then of course, no wonder you don't have any trust in yourselves. You don't even know what you need trust in yourself for. Define the end game. Define your vision. Define what you want. You say, well, how do I do that? I don't know. Well, get a coach. Read a book. Meditate. Figure it out. Decide on something, though. At this stage of the game, if you don't have a vision, you're going to be a part of somebody else's vision. That's a fact. You are going to be a player in someone else's movie. You're going to be a role player. What do you call them? An extra in somebody else's movie, as opposed to the star in your own movie. Define what your movie is. That's first. Second, I believe that you should create small goals as experiments. All right. So always, there's a couple of quotes I really like. Think big, act small. Think global, act local. So with your vision is big on a global scale, on a big scale, create small goals only as experiments to test it out, right? So test it out. If you believe that you want to be, a pro NBA player, let's just say, you want to make it pro. You want to take your game to the next levels, to the highest of levels. Define that vision. Now create a small goal. Try to become the starter on your team. Try to increase your bench press max. Try to add some weight and muscle. Create some small goals. And what that does is that builds trust. Because even if you don't accomplish them, you learn from it. You gain more wisdom. The more wisdom you have, the more trust and faith you have in yourself once things start to get more tough. But people don't like to create the small goals and experiments because they're afraid of failure. And what they don't realize is that from the failure, you profit. You gain wisdom from the failures. And that is what gives you the tangible, real confidence once it comes time to actually accomplish something bigger, right? So that's critical. Create small goals. If you want to have trust in yourself, have very measurable, tangible, concrete goals that you're going after consistently. If I meet you on the street and you tell me you're lacking trust in yourself, I'm going to ask you, what are your goals? If you don't have goals, then go create goals. If you don't know how to create goals, then find out how to create goals. If you don't know where to go to create or how to find out create goals, listen to this podcast. I show you how to create goals. Read books on how to create goals. Find out how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, find out how to do it. That's the rule, all right? Next, you want to create more trust in yourself. I suggest you get a list of the best biographies and stories of people who have overcome a lot and go read them. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali. And it doesn't just have to be athletes. Find as many stories and evidence of people who have overcome a lot. And what you'll realize is that they dealt with the same thing. And when we feel like we're understood and we feel like we're like everyone else, that gives us more trust. When you find out somebody else is dealing with the same problems that you have, doesn't that give you a sense of, okay, you're a little bit more comfortable? And that's what reading biographies, autobiographies, stories of people who have overcome, read. Watch videos. Go on YouTube. Watch the top 10s. Watch clips and interviews of people who have overcome things, who have accomplished things. This will help you start to desensitize yourself to some of that fear of failure that we have. And you can realize it's all right to experience things, to try new things and make mistakes and failures along the way. All right. Next thing that's been big time for me is identifying improvement. That means keeping track and keeping inventory of all the ways in which you win. So writing them down, journaling, reviewing those things. It's money in the bank. Identify your improvement. Create positive associations on a daily basis to your actions. So if you take some actions, if you let's say you have a scrimmage and you suck it up. If you identify any ways in which you've improved, right, or any things that you've learned, what you're doing is now associating positive things to the act of going through it, of actually doing it, of playing. And so now you're not going to be afraid of those things anymore. Most people are afraid to make mistakes because they have negative associations to it. Because when they make mistakes, they think it means they're horrible. They think, coaches don't like them. They think they're embarrassed, whatever it is. But if you identify improvement, you're actually wiring yourself to enjoy to play, even if you make a mistake. And there's some natural pain that goes along with making mistakes. Let me not act like you'll be airballing and celebrating, right? But what I'm saying is if you can identify ways that you've improved, your state of mind is going to be different from people. You're not going to be as hesitant, and you'll have more trust in yourself. So identifying improvement is critical. The next thing that's been a game changer for me, and when I haven't done this has impacted me a ton, is really hanging around people, being physically around people who encourage effort and see progress. All right. This is tough to do. I'm not going to lie. That's why it is so critical to have a coach. That's why it is so critical to have a strong group of friends who are like-minded, who are going where you want to go. Because most people don't encourage effort and they don't acknowledge progress. What they will acknowledge is your lack of results. What they will do is reinforce how you don't have what you want. How many times you've been trying to reach after a goal and you've been making progress, man, you've been keeping track, and then you get around somebody and they're quick to let you know how far away you are from reaching that goal. I don't care how confident, how strong you are. How do you feel when they do that? I don't feel good. I feel horrible. I don't like it when people don't encourage effort and don't see my progress. So you got to be around people who value the same things as you. And for parents out there, listen, if you're a parent of someone, or if you're a parent, athlete, it don't matter what they are, do you encourage effort? Do you see progress? In the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, she did some studies and noticed that the parents who praise their kid for the results, those kids grew up with what they call the fixed mindset. Those are the ones who struggle with anxiety. Those are the ones who struggle with having trust in themselves and all the confidence issues. Because they were praised so much for the results, they didn't praise the effort. So when shit actually got real, when they got older and they didn't get the results on the first try, like they were doing on those spelling tests in 3rd grade, now all of a sudden, their identity is in question. Now all of a sudden it means something about them if they don't achieve the result. But what if it's about the effort, the progress? Those people have a lot of trust in themselves. So we as parents, coaches, mentors, influencers, we need to encourage effort. We need to encourage progress. We need to encourage intelligence. And to me, intelligence is knowing what you don't know. Being smart is knowing that you don't know things and having the courage to go out and find the answers. That's smart. Smart is not knowing a bunch of things. Smart is not having talent on the basketball court. Smart is not being big and strong. You might have been blessed with those things, but being smart is knowing where you lack. Being smart is knowing how to properly channel your talents and your skills to get the results. All right? So get yourself around a group of people who encourage effort, who see progress. Next thing is you got to meditate. You got to be still. You got to learn how to quiet your conscious mind. A lot of the reasons why we don't trust ourselves is because we're overthinking. And we're overthinking because that's what we do. That's what our brain does. We're wired to just survive. That's it. So you, with the power of your conscious, rational mind, you must channel that and learn how to quiet it and access the inner wisdom that's already inside of you. Meditate. Be still. You will have more trust in yourself. Over time, it's not a quick fix. I'm not just telling you meditate, all your problems are going to go away, but I'll tell you this. If you commit to the practice of meditation, there's a reason why virtually 100% of all successful people do some form of meditation. And when I say successful, I mean any type of successful. Rappers, basketball players, CEOs, newscasters, Oprah, Ray Dalio, billionaire, hedge fund manager, one of the richest men in the United States. I think like 13 billion. Said that meditation is responsible for his success. Single-handedly, he said. If I didn't have meditation, he said meditation has been the thing that's been responsible for most of his success. So learn how to do that. Be still. HEADSPACE is a great one. I use that a lot. Calm. I actually have my own meditation practice that I use now, or just me, no guided. But you can grow, you can evolve to that. I would suggest guided meditation in the beginning if you have a hard time doing something as simple as 2 minutes. Meditate, all right? Next thing is study your own success. You got to become a student of yourself. Like, you got to know yourself. Look at the times you've been successful. Look at what happened. Get your recipe. Get your recipe. Find out what happened when you were successful. What happened when you were not successful? And when you do that, you develop more trust in yourself because you know why it happened. You know why it worked out. Lastly, look at the challenges. Look at the things that you go through as experiments, not as do or die. Everything becomes an experiment. Everything is an opportunity to learn and grow. Approach life like a scientist approach a hypothesis. You have the hypothesis that says, if I do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to accomplish my goals. Fill in the blank, whatever your goals are. This is your hypothesis. So do whatever you think it is that you must do, and then examine the results like a scientist would, and modify your approach and keep going until you get what it is that you want. Life is not about, a race from start to finish, and once you finish, you get the medal and it's done. Life is a journey. It's a process. And although that may annoy you, as it annoys me a lot, it's true. That doesn't mean you can't get results, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't be focused on getting results. There's too many people who put a black and white spin on everything and act like one little quote or mantra is the answer to to life's problems and worries. Life is not that simple. Life can be complex. Our job is to simplify it. So I believe that we can look at these challenges as experiments. It's not do or die. Everything can be an experiment, all right? At the end of the day, though, everything ultimately comes down to changing what you value. So if you have a problem with trusting yourself, you got to ask yourself what you value most. And values are all about pleasure and pain. I always bring up the book, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Thick book. I think it's like 400 plus pages. He goes in deep. He goes in depth on values. You should definitely check that book out. That was a game changer for me when I understood this. But changing what you associate pain and pleasure to. So here's what someone who lacks trust in themselves values. They value perfection. They value safety. They value comfort. They value others' opinions. If we're going to have more trust in ourselves, we have to associate pain with opting for those things. I think is the owner of Quest bars, the nutrition bars. I think it's like $1 billion company. I was listening to his podcast, actually. He has a great podcast. I got to get him on the show. And he was talking about how when he's comfortable, he actually gets uncomfortable with that because he knows he's not growing. So he finds a way to put himself through the fire. He finds a way to challenge himself. This is someone who's highly successful. He doesn't value safety and comfort in the same way that most people do. What does he value? What's the new way? Those who do have trust in themselves, they value growth. They value learning. They value evolution, adventure. They don't run from change. They embrace it because they know that life is all about growth. All right? Listen, you have wisdom. You have innate wisdom inside of you. It's there. It's lying dormant, though, because you're overthinking. Now is when we have to quiet our minds. Sit still. Sit still in the morning. I don't care if you're extrovert, introvert. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs to sit still. Everyone needs to quiet themselves, quiet their mind. You have wisdom inside of you. Listening to other people will guarantee frustration. Guarantee you'll be frustrated. If you listen to other people, you let them define what failure means to you, you got to listen to yourself. And you're only going to develop more trust in yourself by going through the fire, through earning that. Trust is like muscle. It's got to be built over time. And if you've been in a relationship and you violated someone's trust, how realistic is it for you to believe that trust is going to be restored overnight just because you said sorry? No. It's a process to build that trust. It's the same thing with yourself. You earn trust in yourself through going through the fire, through learning aggressively, through modifying your approach, through setting small goals. And you temper the irrationality of your conscious mind, who thinks it's rational. You temper that, reading biographies, watching videos. You temper it by being around people who encourage and foster growth, effort, progress. It's not easy. It is tough. It can be tough, but we can make it a lot more simple. And tough doesn't mean bad. Easy doesn't mean good. Pain doesn't mean bad. Comfort doesn't mean good. That's where the wisdom comes in, all right? So I hope this helped. I hope you apply this. I hope you wrote down. And the next time you start talking about you don't have trust in yourself, ask yourself, am I doing what I've been told, what I've learned? Am I doing it? Because a lot of us like to hang on to our problems like they're, necklaces and medallions. We like to brag about them. Oh, yeah, how do you want to continue to not have trust in yourself? Then listen to what I just said on this episode and do it and apply it. If you're someone who struggles with that, hope this helped. Apply it, and let's keep going together, all right? Talk soon. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Motivation Podcast. Make sure if you dig in the podcast, go and subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. I come out with a new episode twice a week on Tuesday and Friday at 3 a.m. Eastern. And make sure you go ahead and rate it and leave me a good review. As always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love. One of the most common questions I get from athletes all the time is this: what is the single best thing I can do to reach my goals? How can I set myself apart from everybody else? Obviously, there are a lot of things, but the one thing that's helped set me apart was having a coach, a mentor, someone to show me the right strategies and how I need to do things specifically to achieve my results. So you could try to do it on your own, but you'll end up making many mistakes that could have been avoided if you had someone guiding you and coaching you along the way. 99% of athletes in the world have expert coaches to show them the things that they can't see. If you want to work with me as your coach, I want you to go to IMNOTYOU.com/SRC and learn more and sign up for a free coaching session. I'll give you 60 minutes of my time for free, and I can teach you some dynamic strategies, plus show you how you can secure me as your sports results coach. All I ask is that you fit in this criteria. You're serious about your sport, you're willing to invest the time and money, and you have clear goals of taking your game to the next level, or some sort of specific results you want to achieve. This is definitely not for everyone, and I have very limited spots available for this. So, if this applies to you, I want you to take action. Go to IMNOTYOU.com/SRC And I guarantee you're going to take your game and your career to the next level.